Yet another headline from the Wall Street Journal that is bound to ruffle Trump's feathers. But before we get to his latest meltdown, I can't stop going back to this Fox News interview last year when he was asked about whether he would release the files or not, because it becomes even more damning with every rewatch.
On a flight in 1993, according to the email, there was just 3 passengers: Trump, Epstein, and what's described as a 20-year-old woman.
I'm not going to say much else than this. With each new detail we learn, do you remember this Fox News interview he gave at the end of last year? Why don't we watch it again?
So, if you were president, would you declassify, you can answer yes or no to these, would you declassify the 9/11 files?
Yeah.
Would you declassify JFK files?
Yeah.
Classify the Epstein files?
Yeah, I would.
All right.
I guess I would. I think that less so because, you don't know. You don't want to affect people's lives if it's phony stuff in there, because there's a lot of phony stuff with that whole world. But I think I would, or at least...
Do you think that would restore trust? Help restore trust?
Yeah, I don't know about Epstein so much as I do the others.
Now, your efforts to control the Epstein narrative are failing when the Wall Street Journal are running headlines like this and Fox News viewers starting to check out.
But you had a different view of that particular picture.
Well, I have a different view of everything everybody has said so far. So I'm so glad that both Paul and Kayleigh have just hit the ball into my court when it comes to polls. 3/4 of Americans find that the economy specifically is fair or poor. There are more than half of Americans who disapprove of the president's job performance, and then hemorrhaging, not light losing, hemorrhaging independent voters, hemorrhaging youth voters, hemorrhaging Latino voters, not going to get it back by the midterms. Paul is right. In the predictors for the midterms, the Dems take the House even in the most conservative-leaning predictors and polls. Now, Dems have flipped 25 Republican-held state seats so far. Republicans have flipped 0. And then you have victories in New Jersey. You'll say, oh, that's a blue state. Well, if Virginia's a blue state, I guess Glenn Youngkin didn't get the memo on that.
According to the Wall Street Journal, Trump cannot escape the Epstein files. And it's a controversy that is becoming more and more of a headache for Donald Trump. And it's eroding the loyalty of conservative viewers who have long been his media backbone and helped push his narrative. For the first time in a long while, some longtime Trump backers, particularly those who subscribe to the Murdoch way of receiving news, are being inundated with headlines like this.
So in this latest group of documents, the president was named. It shows he flew on Jeffrey Epstein's plane at least 8 times in the 1990s, although very recently he denied that he was ever on the plane. Does this raise new questions for you?
Yes, I think that there are multiple things. The fact that he flew on those planes, the fact that he is named in multiple ways. What occurs to me in reading, just trying to go through the batch of documents that's been released, Chris, is that everybody that was in Epstein's orbit, including the president, knew what Epstein was doing. There are references by one person that we think was the former Duke of York to inappropriate guests. There is a letter from Epstein to Nasser, which I should say hasn't been confirmed, or we don't know if it's been confirmed to be from Epstein, in which he refers to Trump and his desire for young, nubile women. So everything in these files seems to indicate that, number one, Trump was deeply engaged with Epstein and that he knew what was going on. And the fact that their relationship was built, according to the New York Times report, on a desire for young women.
And when you look at the president's Christmas post, he's not taking things very well over the holiday season. On Thursday, as part of a supposed Christmas message, Trump wrote the following: "Merry Christmas to all, including the many sleazebags who loved Jeffrey Epstein, gave him bundles of money, went to his island, attended his parties, and thought he was the greatest guy on earth. Only to, quote, drop him like a do when things got too hot, falsely claimed they had nothing to do with him, didn't know him, said he was a disgusting person, and then blame, of course, President Donald J. Trump, who was actually the only one who did drop Epstein, and long before it became fashionable to do so." And to this point, an Epstein survivor pointed out, he's projecting. You see, after ranting about Epstein, his post then turned to politics when he penned, quote, "When their names get brought out in the ongoing radical left witch hunt, in brackets plus one low-life Republican, Massey, and it is revealed that they are Democrats all, there will be a lot of explaining to do, much like there was when it was made public that the Russia hoax was a fictitious story, a total scam, nothing to do with Trump. Now, in covering this sheer insanity, it's clear that the Murdoch-ran outlets, like the New York Post and Wall Street Journal, are being told to avoid the usual spin tactics. Now, I will say, is it because one of the world's most bigoted and vile oligarchs has had a change of heart in his old age? I doubt it. But I would lean more so towards the fact that even the likes of Rupert Murdoch knows that when it involves Epstein, he ain't hitching a ride with the sinking ship. Trump is woefully unpopular as it is, not to mention when you involve the Epstein files, his numbers fall off a cliff.
A new Reuters poll shows President Trump's approval rating falling to its lowest level. Now, this is apparently because of prices and the Epstein files. His approval rating sits at 39%. That is down 9 points from when he took office.
And it's interesting, looking at the polls, there have been multiple polls now showing that how the American public views this issue. This is from CBS just yesterday. Should DOJ release all the information on Epstein? 89% say yes. I mean, you rarely see that in polls in this era of polarized politics. And you ask about how Republicans feel about this, of whether they're satisfied with how Trump has done this well, they've handled it well. Just 50% of Republicans, 49% say they're dissatisfied. I mean, typically Trump is at 90% or so among Republicans, no matter what the issue is here, 50%.
A Reuters Ipsos survey found that a substantial 70% said they thought the Trump administration is trying to conceal who may have been involved in the disgraced financier's child sex crimes, including 62% of Republicans. And of those surveyed, 62%, including 56% of Republicans, also believe the government is hiding information about Epstein's death in a New York jail. And the more that Trump goes off on unhinged rants like this, compounded by the efforts that he went to try and persuade the likes of Lauren Boebert to vote against the full release, he's not exactly doing himself any favors here.
It is no exaggeration to say that Congresswoman Lauren Boebert's most impactful accomplishment in 5 years in Congress is the forcing of the release of the Epstein files. The House voted nearly unanimously today to do it, with fellow Republicans like Colorado's Gabe Evans taking credit for the transparency. But it was Boebert, not Evans, who stood nearly alone in her party in defying Republican leadership and President Trump to force this vote. The bill gives the Trump administration 30 days to release the case files on the infamous pedophile and political power player Jeffrey Epstein. The bill allows the Justice Department to redact identifying information about Epstein's victims, as well as information tied to ongoing investigations. Republican House leadership and President Trump had tried to block the release of the files, claiming they're a Democrat hoax, just trying to tie Trump to Epstein based on their years of personal friendship. Republican Rep. Thomas Massey of Kentucky is a sponsor of the bill, and today he gave credit to a small group of House Republicans, including Lauren Boebert, for joining Democrats to force a vote on this bill, despite the pressure from Trump and other powerful Republicans.
Let me tell you who I'm thankful to. These three brave women, Marjorie Taylor Greene, Nancy Mace, and Lauren Boebert, they have been threatened. They have been intimidated. Physically, politically, it's disgusting. And not by the far left. They have been intimidated by people in our own party.
President Trump just dropped his longtime opposition to the release of the Epstein files when it became clear that this vote was going to happen and it was going to pass. Today, Boebert echoed Trump's current claim that he did not know about Epstein's child sex crimes, referencing when Trump cut ties with Epstein for recruiting young women away from Mar-a-Lago.
President Trump has been on the right side of this all along. For Democrats who try to pair President Trump with Jeffrey Epstein, I think they're going to continue to be proven wrong. He is the man who some suspect was a whistleblower against Jeffrey Epstein. He also kicked him out of Mar-a-Lago once he learned what he was involved in.
The Senate passed this bill by unanimous consent shortly after the House approved it. President Trump has indicated he will sign it.
And it appears that his most trusted allies, they're calling it quits, trying to spin all this
Want to stay plugged in? Become a subscriber to our Substack at MeidasPlus.com. You'll get daily recaps from Ron Filipkowski, ad-free episodes of our podcast, and more exclusive content only available at MeidasPlus.com.